Finally, welcome to Mind of Mir. Long time coming. I've tried to do little versions of this here and there, but I finally have put together a great system. The guys from Blue Scorpion sponsoring the show really helped me finally come together, and also grab a co-host, which I'll admit there's some nepotism involved in this. There wasn't a strong or very long list of tryouts for the job, but this standing as my co-host on Mind of Mir is my beautiful wife, Mrs. Mir.
Hello.
How does it feel? We got to today was our first day. Well, we've done interviews already, so this is actually like our second go at this right now, because we later on in the show you'll see that we've taped a couple interviews. We'll slap in here. That was our first day actually being on camera together, but still, this is so relatively new that you're actually not just being asked on the side as a support role, but you're here with me. You're no longer in support. You're actually main fighter.
Yeah. It's cool, but scary kind of at the same time. I'm excited.
I like the control position.
Yes, I'm sure that's why. That's probably the main reason why. You're like, Frank, you could have so many other co-hosts. He's like, nope.
Well, you know what has always given me the idea? And we even saw it the other day when we had taped, and afterwards, we go eat at the shawarma place. And you're holding court. We're all discussing things. Like every time I've sat down with friends and family at dinner, we're breaking bread. You and I are always having conversations, and we take things deep. I think sometimes, TMI is sometimes, our issue, but we're very confident, individuals. So we share deeply into our lives and allow people in. And I think that every time I can't count. I mean, you yourself, right? Yeah. If we had a nickel for every time someone said, wow, if we were taping that right then and there, if we had you guys, that is a podcast. That's like, we got to do it.
Podcast,
reality show.
Yes. You guys should have your own reality show. You guys should have your own. And the reality show aspect of it, I mean, way back in the day, when I shot a couple, they were trying to do the MMA Wives. I shot a couple pilots.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
You've seen how they script it.
Yes. Wasn't scripted, or it was scripted.
Actually, that's an interesting story, because I figured it out first because I coached on the Ultimate Fighter 8 against Nogueira, remember? And I'd come home and you'd ask me that, like, are they telling you what to do? I'm like, well, not really. What they do is they set us up. They'll do things like, tell him one thing, tell me one thing, and then like as we're coming together, it's going to cause a problem. They got the cameras ready to go, So it's like putting you in position. But when you did it, they actually told you what to say. They were trying to get you to actually say specific things, correct?
Yeah, they told us what to wear. They told us they would set up scenarios, right? Like I remember one of the...
well, you were in the bathroom. They wanted you in the bathroom with Nikki talking shit. Like, what was it?
Yes, at the time was Nikki Trigg, Frank Trigg's wife. Now she's Nikki Amston. Nikki and I, they said, okay, we want you guys in the bathroom, and we want you guys to kind of do a little, like, you're putting your makeup on, you're washing your hands, and you're kind of bantering, like, God, my husband's, he's being such a bitch right now, and that's when I was like, wait, what? And I said, I'm not going to say that. I can't say that. I don't want to say that, So it just wasn't. You and I had talked about if we did a podcast that was, if the cameras were coming in and it was you, me, and the kids and just our normal life, and people were having an opinion about that, I wouldn't care as much, because that's us, right? Take it or leave it. But with the podcast, or with the reality show,
they're trying to create a facade, an image, and you're like,
yeah, and I'm like, but that's not me. That's not us. I would never talk like that about him.
No, that's something I think you and I both hold dearly, and I attest that to the fact that we're both, almost, you're second generation, I'm first generation from people that have come, our family members coming from different countries. That, that's one thing that I hate that we see here now in the U.S. is the lack of respect for each other's spouses. And it seems like it's okay, and it's so socially accepted, especially for the woman, to be disrespectful to the man. If I would have been talking shit about you, the world would go, hey, what are you doing? That's your wife. You know what I mean? They'd come down on me. But you're allowed to talk shit about me or humiliate me, demasculate me, and it's completely accepted in our society. Like that clip you just showed me recently on Instagram. You're like, Frank, you got to look at this. I was blown away. It was Alec Baldwin. I'm like, and his wife.
And his wife. They were on a red carpet, and I showed you the video, and you said, there's no way that that's real.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't accept it.
But I said, Frank, no, there's different. That wasn't the only thing she said. It was like multiple, like 2 or 3 different things where she's shushing him. She told him, she's shooing him, get away.
Very, very obnoxiously.
Oh my gosh, I was mortified. That's why I showed you. And I said, oh my gosh, as soon as I looked at that, I was thinking, you would kill me if I did that to you.
And vice versa, though. I mean, I would never ever disrespect you in that way. Like, I think that's people don't realize. Like, hey, you guys are a united front. Like, it's you. I feel like when you're married, it's you versus the world. You have your children, but like your spouse, that's your number one comrade. That's who you go to battle with. So for you to demasculate or humiliate them, or even as the woman, I've never come across and tried to sit there. Well, you're the housewife. You sit here and go. It's like, well, no. Like if you just look at how and I'm so big on where we came from, evolutionary psychology. Yeah. Like what allowed us to come this what was this behavior beneficial for? If you think about it, men, I tell you all the time, like the days of me being home every day, that's new. It used to be you go off and hunt. It took a couple days to go get that woolly mammoth and go kill him and bring him back, and vice versa. Through all the wild west, all throughout society, the woman ran the household while the husband was gone. She was the queen. So to disrespect you in any way or take away your power, it's like, well, now, like, how's anybody going to respect my wife and listen to her when I'm gone if I don't respect her? And vice versa on the man.
It just, and watching it, I mean, you and I watched it a couple times. It looks ugly. I mean, it's not, I didn't feel looking at that anywhere where she looked powerful to me. I felt it looked,
right.
It didn't look powerful.
No, not
she
at
might
all.
have felt it, and I think people might have taken it like, because I
She's
think that was one of the, that was one of the comments, like Alec Baldwin realizing the mistake he just made or something like that, right? But
he made a mistake, it looks like.
Yeah, but I think it looked really ugly, and listen, I mean, come on, I mean, you and I can be honest. We've been together almost 24 years. Behind closed doors, we've been arguing with each other. I mean, you and I, though, we're not name callers. That's just something that you and I don't allow. But we do have said mean and hurtful things,
We've had some disagreements.
Well, I'll have to tell the story. The first time I ever told you, remember when I said, you were being stupid. I didn't call you stupid. I said,
we'll leave that to later.
Yeah. But just the respect, you set those boundaries very early on. Most relationships do. And you kind of stick to them. Yes, there's times, but it's never in front of other people. I mean, that's just an absolute no. Not even just for the respect that I have for you and what that makes you look like. I don't want to look like that.
Right.
I don't want to look like that.
Yeah, it looked obnoxious.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
I was still stuck on him, how it made him look, but you're right.
I was stuck on her, how it made her look. Right. They have kids and he has older children too. So, there's a divorce there, right? So he has his older kids with his first wife and then the new younger kids. And I'm thinking, all the way around, it just looked really ugly. Yeah. Speaking
about how people have to think about you, you are very familiar with this in the fight game, hyping up fights, making fights come true, right? I know there's a lot of talk about, John Jones trying to avoid fighting, Aspinall, my secret love child. I haven't told you about him. Oh my gosh, you guys.
We're going to have him on the show one time just to talk about, maybe we should do like a DNA test on the show.
Yeah, there's sometimes I've seen some fight. I'm like, wait, hold on, no. He even has great jiu-jitsu and, has similar styles.
He is not Frank's child.
I'd have been 14, which it's plausible, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But no. But John has been avoiding that, it looks like just trying to, ducking him. They keep going quack, 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 that John's ducking. And I have a theory on this, is that Aspinall is a clean cut, he's a good guy. He's a great fighter. He lets his words, his fists speak for him more than he does. He's not really a trash talker. I think John is actually just using this as a strategy to get them more views by avoiding the fight, looking like he's not. Look how many headlines are picking up. I don't think they'd have as much attention on this fight if John were to immediately go ahead and have accepted it. I think the fact that he's trying to look like he's avoiding it, it's causing intrigue. It's causing some kind of turmoil. Look how many times you open up any kind of website that has MMA news, and of late, that it becomes one of the top 3 or 4 articles.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, if you remember, you first started fighting, you would have fought for free, right? You would have fought for nothing. Your focus was, your focus was fighting and just showing your craft and all that. And then there comes that point, you had it too, probably I would say with the Brock fight, where you realized, oh, wait, this is a business.
Yeah.
This is entertainment. And look, you're getting punched in the face and you're harming your body. You might as well make as much as you can. So I think with Aspinall right now, he is using that right now as kind of his like catapult catapult into that next level. Like, oh, okay, this is a business. I'm going to, capitalize on John Jones and this fight, and that people are looking and they're watching. And I think that,
Yeah, that makes sense. Instead of sitting there worried
John Jones is definitely not ducking.
No.
Come on. I mean,
that being said about John, as far as pushing the envelope. Sorry, I had a thought there for a second, but I was waiting for you to finish, and I lost. That's okay. It's my fault.
We're new at this.
Yeah. Pushing up the price for the fight, making it go over really well, and then talking about other former champions. Speaking about John Jones and Cain Velasquez, finally came out that he's going to get 5 years. I don't know how much. I was looking at it pretty deeply yesterday. I kind of went down the rabbit hole, re-pulling up the case, looking at it again. Who was the perpetrator, what had occurred allegedly, and what's going on. And actually, I had a few things wrong. The guy that the victim that he was chasing down, that he feels that is the one that's been alleged to have assaulted his son, doesn't have a prior record. I thought there was a prior record there, that he was already a former registered child molester. I don't know why I had thought that. I thought, who knows? People say information, you get faulty news. But no, he was 46 years old. He had already passed a federal background check to legally be there on site, as far as being around the children. I don't think that he was, as far as their license was supposed to ever be around the children alone. And allegedly he was in the bathroom with Cain's 4-year-old son, and then Cain's son came home and told his mom, the guy had touched him inappropriately. I think showed himself to him. But all we have is testimony from the 4-year-old saying that this happened. And I just remember sitting there thinking, and you and I both kind of follow this code also. If you were in the bathroom with someone else's kid, like a 4-year-old, the door shut, like, why would you be in the bathroom? I mean, like, there's certain things where I'm like, that'll never happen to me. I would never put myself in that position. Like, hey, I'm sorry. We either keep the door open if it's an emergency, no problem. The door stays open and whoever else comes in here with me. But I'm never going into a room with someone else's kid or someone else's woman, shutting the door and allowing that, like, well, I mean, it's your word versus their word. I'm like, well, that's not really a good position to be in.
I mean, even medical doctors, they you go to a doctor's visit, I'm a full-grown adult, you're a full-grown adult, they have to have somebody else in the room with you. I mean, so there were no prior, he's not a registered sex offender or anything like that?
No, and I scoured it. I could be wrong if anybody else can find something on that. Yeah. But it seems that, like, no, not at all. So that, not that there's either way what he's doing. It is weird, though, that the mother who owns the facility, she is right now not allowing herself to be served paperwork. So they have a subpoena out for her, so she has to present herself in court. And she's doing everything she can. It looks to be on her part, not answering the door. She's avoiding. And there's a term for it, like evading the warrant or paperwork. So someone is coming out there trying to serve you. It's like, hey, you've been served. The guy comes over and hands you the paperwork. She's avoiding it, which to me, it's like, if you have evidence that your son's innocent, this is preposterous. Why would you not want to immediately show up and be like, yo, like, this is becoming global news, because of Cain is who he is. This is massive. Like, why would you not come forward? That casts doubt for me. It's like,
I was going to say.
Yeah, it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, why would you not want to clear your son's name? You have evidence, or you, in some ways, you don't want your day in court. Like, I know if I'm being accused of something that atrocious, give me my day in court immediately. Let me show you guys that this isn't what's going on.
Plus, too, I mean, here, whether he had priors or not, we're parents. We've talked about this. Your child comes home and tells you
that. My God.
The emotion behind it. I mean, obviously, Cain, I don't even think you can think clearly at that moment, especially, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine Cain, the kid just came in and said, oh, and it was kind of vague. I mean, I'm thinking what threw him into any type of rage like that would be to have a child telling you specifics, right? Yeah. Like something that you just...
He believes his son. And his son's probably the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wasn't there, we're not there. But, but for anybody to say that Cain shouldn't have flown off the handle like that, I'm like...
That's
who
not even
wouldn't have
reality.
tripped out? And I'm not judging Cain for his reaction whatsoever.
No.
I understand that there has to be a punishment for it too, though. Like
Yeah.
that's the part. Like I think you and I have talked about it before. I said, that, I'm like, oh, babe, well, I'll see you in 90 days after
Yeah.
I take care of this, because I know that whatever my reaction is going to be, that if it becomes violent and physical, that I'm going to have to go to jail for a little while. It's one of those things like I accept the punishment; it's worth it. I think Cain more than understands that. Driving down the freeway for 11-mile car chase, firing off rounds at this vehicle. He could have hit somebody's mother, hit somebody's sister. I'm not judging that he shouldn't have, that mindset's not called for. I get it. Mm-hmm. That's your baby. Holy cow. Like I wouldn't have done anything differently, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like I completely agree with it. But then at the end of it, it's like, damn, no, all right, well, I'm going to accept my punishment, because I realize that isn't, it's still wrong behavior as far as the vigilantism, going out there, the road rage. You could have caused problems for people that are not involved. So like, because of that, that's where the punishments come from. Not chasing the guy down, going after him. Like, well, he's a molester. Of course he goes after him. Like, well, no, there's other people involved that because of Cain's reaction that were in danger. And that's why I think the judge has to pass some sort of punishment forward and say, hey guys, you know what I mean? Like, you still can't go completely crazy and destroy the neighborhood because, somebody else, had done what they did. We get it. Your reaction is completely understandable, but putting other people's lives in danger, that's the part where I think the punishment comes forward. And I think Cain, fully accepts that that's how it has to be. Now I'm interested because this guy still has delayed his day in court. He claimed not guilty.
Yep.
But I'm interested to see, what kind of evidence comes forward to prove, if they really have evidence, which I doubt it. Because at this point, the fact that the mom's avoiding it, that's kind of a nail in the coffin for me. I'm like, you did it. Something, if I have to say anything.
I agree. And Cain, I think it's hard for people to think that, but Cain probably did think, I'm going to have consequences. It didn't matter to him at that time. You know what I mean? Like,
if you asked him right now, would you do it again? He goes, I'd have been a better shot,
Yeah.
That's when else drive so I can handle
Yeah,
the
but he made the or not made the mistake. He went out there and he did what he needed to do at that time, and he's taking the consequence. I mean, I think it is what it is. I think a lot of parents would have done the same thing, if not worse. It's such an emotional thing when it involves your child that I don't know.
There's consequences of that behavior. The one thing that I hate about our society now is we've really taken away the ability for a father or a parent or to really take charge of their children, their family. It's like almost like if you react, you're more in trouble than the person who committed the crime. Someone comes over and slaps you and takes your purse, and I grab the guy, take him down, and choke him out. I get charged before he does. We've seen it in the train situation where that individual had 46 counts against him of violent actions, and he's acting crazy. And that former Marine kid, grabs him and holds him down, and ends up, the guy passes away. But he was still trying to defend and come to the rescue for people. And there's a very loud part of our society that's like, no, don't allow that to happen. I'm like, why are we just okay with people being, assholes and we can't check them? I think there's a part of society that there has to be consequences when you act a certain way. And if you don't, that's why I think people's behavior gets so awful. You don't charge people for stealing in Walmart. Now you have people literally just walking down the aisle, throwing shit in a bag. As long as I'm over $1,000, I'm good. And you just got to sit there and watch them. God forbid you jump and stop them and do the right thing. But now you're in trouble for assault and battery. Yeah.
And you and I, we've had so many conversations about this and with people, and you and I definitely live in the world of there's consequences for your actions. I mean, you affect our family, our friends, our house, our home, our home. There's going to be consequences. So, I wish we were allowed to not go straight vigilante, but kind of, borderline vigilante.
I wish there was a little bit more of a dueling type of aspect of respect where the man can go ahead and, the patriarch of the household could stand up for the honor of his family. A little bit more. I think that people would act less of an asshole, because right now, you see in classrooms where teachers don't have the ability to discipline the children, kids act like assholes. That's why I think that was the main reason why when you talked about putting our children in private school, I'm like, hell yeah, because the teachers have power. That was my main reason. Yeah. I don't think you can have just as good of an education, public school, if the parents are involved, the information's there. But I knew that we wouldn't have to worry with any disruptions. There would that kid in the class that's going to go ahead and drag the teacher down, and she's in the public school system where she's going to have to spend all her time on him. Like the squeaky wheel gets all the oil. So because he's a behavioral issue, it's going to affect our children. I'm like, well, no. In private school, they just kick the kid out.
Yeah,
done. You're not. You can't figure it out. All right, you're out of here. Sorry. Hopefully, you can figure it out on the side. Maybe go to some different classes. But we're not going to allow you to affect the group as a whole. We're not going to walk to the slowest person in our group. We would never get anywhere in our society.
Well, and that's how public schools are designed, right? They're designed, even the grading system, the lowest score ends up being the curve. You know what I mean? They don't, whereas in private schools, no, you have to reach up to their level, and then, or you don't move on to the next grade. In public school, you just keep moving on. It's funny when you, to go back to when you and I, how we always talk about how we've raised our kids. And so we always tell people, you come into our home, you're walking into the lion's den. Because Cage, Bella, and Ronan, I don't know which one's more dangerous, because people say, oh man, Frank, and then Bella, and then Cage, and then Ronan, and then you. It's like, I go,
one time maybe we should show that how we do our assault group when we lie in the room. If someone breaks into our house, we've always, the people that I've used to train us, our family, is to go after them. I'm like, well, no, we don't do the whole story. Just wait in the bedroom and close the door. I'm like, well, no, this is my household. You come in, I'm going to go eat you. It's time to go hunt. You know what I mean? And we have a whole, a procedure where, we grab you and then we go to the kids. We start collecting and we start building up our fire team as we're looking for you in our house with the windows down, and we have night vision. So.
Oh yes, we should put a warning.
No warnings. Open window.
Oh yes, that's right. You hope.
Hey, what'd you think about that situation with the Crouch? And there was recently again another MMA fighter that is in trouble for gambling, for placing bets. You kind of looked at it a little bit. They're not throwing fights, right? They're just betting on inside information.
It looked like they were just betting on inside information. But which as we were reading about that.
Could you pull up who was the fighter who just recently got penalized? You
guys could bet. It used to be that way.
No, I think up until recently, if I remember correctly, because you were actually reading me the article, that up until now, or up until recently, there was no real code or policy put out by the UFC on conduct for fighters to bet. Even when we used to do the, what's that called? They had all of us get together and we'd all go to Red Rock once a year.
Oh, the Summit.
Summit, yes. So when they started the Fighters Summit, they'd have us all get together, and you have, the speakers come in, guys talk, do your taxes. Another guy come in, don't do drugs. Another guy, how to invest your money. There was some discussion on the gambling aspect. It's like, hey, be careful how it looks. You don't want to be just seen, walking around the betting. It was really kind of vague, just like, don't get yourself in trouble. It's like, well, what is the definition of getting yourself in trouble here when it comes to betting? Yeah,
and it made sense because we were reading about this on the way over here because I brought it up and then you didn't really know about it. So we were, you said, look it up. It looked like too, I think, so let me pull it up here. The iPad wasn't working.
So exactly, who was the fighter?
So what's the name that you just said? Crouch?
Yes.
Crouch. Okay, so...
we've been in his gym. That's when we're down there at Benson Henderson, and that's the facility.
So he was on an MMA show or something, and he had brought it up, which probably just innocently because at that time, fighters could place bets. There wasn't anything. Well,
we used to before the Reebok deal. I had worn bet. There was a lot of offshore gambling sites that we'd advertise. I'd get 15 to 25 grand. Hey, put this on your shorts.
Yeah, so the fighter, though, that just got banned from the UFC for 3 years. Let me see. Nope. Jeff Molina.
Okay. He got a 3-year ban.
3-year suspension.
For betting, but not for, because he bet with inside information.
Placed significant bets on fights with insider knowledge, which... Insider knowledge to me, so he knows about injuries.
Yeah,
it was really weird though, because I told you in the car, I'm like, okay, so fighters can't place bets.
Well, keeps you from calling my buddy up. Hey, man.
But look at all the people that are training in the gym.
Yeah.
Everybody sees everything. Anybody that's injured that you're training with, that's a training partner, people are going to know who's injured. So I don't really know what unless they're throwing fights, but it didn't look like that's what they were talking
I completely
about.
understand is illegal. Some guy comes in and you find out, hey, he
course.
put $1 million for himself to lose. It's like, oh shit, he just threw the fight. I get that.
Yeah.
But knowing that a guy has a busted knee, because that doesn't still guarantee victory. I mean, just because you know someone's hurt.
You would have never won anything if that was the case.
Everybody's
all
injured.
fighters. Yeah, all fighters are injured.
Do you remember the one time when I fought Nogueira the first time? And the guy, my management came up to me and said, hey, I already said no, but I feel it's like just letting you know in case you have a different thought on this. But one of his teammates that he trains with, that he's here with, it's like in his room basically, had pulled our manager to the side at the time and said, hey, if you give me, I think it was like, 10 to 20 grand, I'll tell you where he's hurt, that he has a significant injury or some sort of weak spot that he's worried about that would really be beneficial and a huge win on Amir's part to have this information. I was like, I almost want to pay the money just to have the guy come forward, just to out him. To be like, how dare you, mother? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, I always told people that when, like, people are like, oh, do you hate the guy you're fighting? I'm like, hey, if in the middle of the fight, the lights went out between two fighters, and then Dana walks in and goes, hey, guys, sorry, power's out. We're not going to have these anymore. The fights are done for the night. We're going to go next door. Everybody's going to buy drinks. Let's go hang out. Who do you think I'm hanging out with? I always tell people, like, who do you think I have most in common with? The guy that I'm in the ring with. He's another martial artist. He's another person who's put his life in. This is an endeavor. Like, we probably have more personality traits, more boxes we could check that we get along than the guy who's screaming, stand them up. He's half drunk and shirt not buttoned right. And he's like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, all right, buddy. No, Facebook is
you
pretty.
Suck. Oh my God, I hate it. I know.
Yeah, so that being said, when the guy came forward with the information, I'm like, oh, that's a scumbag move, man. How are you going to, like, be training with somebody, be a brother with him in battle, and then back away and be like, hey, man, for 20 grand, I'm willing to sell my integrity and honor. It's like, you need to be figured out, you know what I mean? We need to out him, but our management said, no, let's just not get involved. You know what I mean? That's his group, whatever. Awful behavior. And then now we're going to go ahead and start to lead into what other parts of the show that we have our interviews that we had booked earlier. Super excited. It was super interesting to have Dr. Chris Seward, who actually did my thoracic surgery. And then we also had Dr. Kaplan, Stuart Kaplan, who did my cervic. And then cervical, the neck area. And then Dr. Arthur, who is that guy, man, I feel like I needed to have the laptop in front of me to go ahead and start understanding half of what he's talking about, because such depth of information that, you start on quantum mechanics. I'm like, dude, I actually looked this stuff up and have a somewhat understanding, very, very street understanding. I'm not a professor in any sort, but some deep knowledge. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it as much as I enjoyed it. All right, guys, now to the interview section of our program of the Mind of Mir. We come back. I have, obviously, my wife, Jennifer Mears, here to my left. And my guest today is Dr. Stuart Kaplan, who I'm very intimate with, or is intimate with me. It is to be part of the story that we're going to showcase that the three of us probably know was an interesting time. To preface it, Dr. Kaplan, how long have you been in medicine? Just a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a neurosurgeon. I've been here in Las Vegas for the last 22 years.
Wow, and specifically working on the cervical spine, is that your level of specialty, or?
Well, I'm a neurosurgeon, so neurosurgeons take care of people with a variety of problems. In your case, what we did was a cervical issue. And I know later on, one of my partners will be here, we'll talk about your other issues.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of myself. So bottom line is we're surgeons that deal with things, including the brain and the spine and the spinal cord.
So you watching what I do for a living probably horrifies you.
Wow, it's the real deal.
Well, how actually we ended up meeting was because, if I remember, it was about 2021. I'm training with my children, and my wife will tell you the kids. My oldest son, Cage, was getting ready to go into his freshman year of high school, and he bench pressed 315. And so it was that summer, and I'm like, oh, you know what? He's like, Dad, like, what do you can bench press? I'm like, well, I mean, the old man. I hadn't lifted heavy for a while like that, so I was like, oh, you know what? Let me see what I can do. I go back to 400 pounds. So we were all training with a guy named Nick Best, world strongman competitor, does powerlifting. And I was pushing the weights pretty hard. That August, I actually had bench pressed 385 for 2 reps at the beginning of August. And so then about 3 weeks later, we had rotated back up to where that lift was going to be, I was going to try to go for 405. So on the way up, we're warming up, and we had put 365 on the bar. And I remember when we unracked it, it just almost cut me in half. I just shut down, you know. And I didn't understand what was going on. I remember talking to, you know, getting up, I'm like, man, I must be overtrained. I came home and talked to the wife. I'm like, babe, it was just, you know, I don't know if I have it. That September, it was a high rep day, and we're doing bench press for 225 pounds for reps, which I'm pretty good for about 20 to 25 reps. On the fourth rep, I had to rack it. Cage is looking at me, my son. Ronan's at my feet. Bella's on the side. And they're like, Dad, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I can't lift it. So that's when I actually went to our chiropractor that I've gone to for the longest time. She sees my kids. She sees me. It's Christine Lukens, who luckily works inside your office building there at LNI, right? So I go in there, and she's rubbing around my neck. She's all, Frank, you know what? This is a problem, because she started grabbing my arm, and she goes, put your hands up. I remember that was the first time I really felt the difference. I put both my hands up, and she easily collapsed my right arm. It was unreal how fast my arm dropped with effortlessly. I couldn't fight it. She goes, we need you to come over. And that's actually when I walked over to you, and you said, look, we need to start off with an MRI and a CT scan. And then what did you see when you first saw those scans that first came back?
Well, what was amazing, actually, is, you know, Christine Lukens is great. I think she's one of the best chiros around. You know, she takes care of people like yourself, other athletes, other VIP kind of people in our town. So she came over. I'll never forget. She came over. You come over and stuff. And obviously, we've seen you before in other avenues, whether it be on, you know, et cetera. So a little different than the usual patient that we tend to see. A little bigger too, a little stronger too. So bottom line, you come over. And I recall taking off your shirt, and I recall you saying, I mean, you're not the usual guy where, you know, patients tell me, you know, I'm weak in my arm, but, you know, you see a guy like you with muscles like this, but the reality is you had atrophy.
Yeah.
You had atrophy. So you're the kind of guy, with all due respect, that kind of powered through things and really did not appreciate what you had going on because you're so strong here. Right. So, I mean, you had clear atrophy in that right arm that you didn't have on the other arm. I mean, you know, again, the usual thing we do in our office is we check people's strengths. But obviously, if you, I tell our patients, you know, squeeze my hand. I mean, you'd break my hand. But the bottom line is, you know, even though you can break my hand on both sides, it was obvious that you were weak. And when someone like you says, look, I'm not the way I used to be, that's real. In other words, history is where it's at. So you basically, and it was clear, it was obvious. I mean, you had muscle atrophy, and that's neurologic. So that was ultimately a sign of neurologic compression in your neck. And I recall we got some films on you. I think we got an X-ray and an MRI scan, and you had pretty significant what they call cervical stenosis, which means compression of the spinal cord, and you also had compression of your nerve roots that were basically coming out of the spinal cord, and those nerve roots essentially bathe or innervate the muscles of your arm. So that's why you had the weakness of the bicep, the tricep, the grip, things like that. So that was the bottom line.
Yeah, and I remember how fast it felt like the drop-off, because I was struggling with my arm in September, but I could still spar. But I remember I would fight right side lead, which is like a southpaw stance, and I would throw jabs. And I remember telling my trainer, like, man, I'm in shape, but my arm just gets tired so fast. And I think I kept going to you, going, hey, does my one arm look smaller than the other? Like, what's going on here? And you were telling me, like,
Yeah, I know. I think for me too, I was kind of like in denial also, because it's like, is it getting smaller? I mean, I think it is. I think I was afraid to
actually, because you were like, no, Frank, it's in your head.
I think I was the last ones to say, because you're like, everyone's telling me that it looks smaller. And I'm like, no, I think it's fine. It's fine. You know, I think it was just denial.
After we spoke, you had said, okay, we're going to set up obviously I needed a procedure done. But then I got the phone call where I was going to do a fight in Triller. And they're like, oh, they're going to do this boxing match, but you can use MMA gloves and you can clinch and do basically Greco-Roman wrestling. It's against a guy who's a top 10 heavyweight for the last 10 years, but you can clinch him. I'm like, all right, well, it's not that bad. And at the time, I could actually use my arm somewhat. It was at 40%, but it was at a percentage. And then I remember you were like not really liking the idea, but I think I had to explain to you, like, well, this is a lot of money. And actually was my highest payday to date. So to pull out of it, even with all the information you gave me, I was like, I got to take this.
You got a family. You got to do what you got to do.
So then we take the fight, and I just remember the week of, it was just amazing. By the time I fought, I couldn't even hold a towel. My wife had to pick up my arm, help me to put on deodorant.
Yeah.
She would lift my arm up for me so I could put on the deodorant because I couldn't pick my own arm up. And I even was like, hey, look at this, watch this, babe. I couldn't curl a towel, hand towel. Couldn't even curl it. And the only time that actually even bugged me before the fight is a stare down. not that Pulev knew, but he had shook my hand earlier in that week during one of the face-offs, for it was a news, credentials, and he pulled my arm, and I couldn't fight back. It literally yanked me off balance because I had no right arm. And so then when we did the face-off the day before the fight, I just kind of made it look like I was being a dick, but I was like, I can't let him feel how weak my right arm is before we go out and fight, and just don't let the cat out of the bag. You know what I mean? So then the fight was over with, and then I got to come back and do the surgery, and it turned out to be a great success. But I actually heard one story from one of the guys in the room. He said that, maybe you can give clarity to this. He goes, you don't understand, Frank. There's a traction machine on the neck, and we had you into traction, but the machine wouldn't take you far enough. So he said that he literally had to grab the side of it, and he had his feet on the edge of the table, basically pulling to hold back. Does this sound anything familiar?
Not really. To be truthful, no. But that's okay.
Is that something that sounds plausible?
Absolutely. It's your reality.
Okay.
That's what. Here's the truth. To be honest, I've done so many surgeries since you. You're a memorable dude. You are.
Yeah.
However,
I just did the thing that fans do to me sometimes. Hey, man, I met you in an elevator 5 years ago when you were walking out of Taco Bell. Right,
yeah, exactly.
You know what? You have to go back a little bit though. After you got the information from Dr. Kaplan, and then we got the call from Triller about the money, I remember Frank and I him coming in there, and him and I just looking at each other, I think standing there staring, figuring out, he's like, what do we do? I'm like, I don't know what, because he's never, you're the one fighting and getting in there. I'm always turning to him well, you know what to do. You know that your body's ready. You know what you're doing. And that was the first time he's like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean? I don't know. What do we do? Do you stop? Do you keep going? It was a really
Well, and also too, at that point, I was still sparring. Lukens was having people, I forgot who the gentleman that worked with her, we were doing this, he was putting the needles into my arm and shoulder and neck and doing I was doing everything within my possibility to keep my arm up, going. It literally just broke down 3 days before the fight, became useless. To the point to where I remember when I was in the locker room with my children and my wife, before I was kind of a little meeting, we hug each other, and I told them hey, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to show you that you can't always choose your opportunities when adversity comes. That's very much of a luxury we have nowadays, where I can go, oh, well, I'm going to call in sick. Yeah, it's not today. Can we reschedule? 500 years ago when the Vikings were coming, to come burn down the village, it's hey, it's time to grab a shield, go. I don't feel good, man. My stomach hurts. That doesn't exist, And not that this was a sport fight. It still has its realm of just it's not real, but it's being sportive. But I wanted to make sure that I showcase my kids, hey, I'm taking this seriously. Even if the odds are not in my favor, it doesn't mean I can't still find a way to win. And that's actually what kind of hurt me a little bit in the fight. I refused to go down because I didn't want anybody in hindsight to find out that because I had an injury, that maybe I just took the fight, walked in there, and took a bow. All right, I'm out of here. Give me my check. So that's why I actually went to win. And then even when I was getting rocked, I refused to leave my feet. I was like, no, kill me if you have to, but I'll hold the rope and die that way. I'm not going to touch the ground. Even to the point where the fight was over with, I wouldn't let them sit me down on the stool. I was like, nope, not till I get to the locker room, which,
Well, and our kids were cornering.
Yeah.
Our kids were cornering him.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Bella and Cage were in your corner.
Yeah, I wanted to show, be representative again of how do you handle adversity, and sometimes I think a lot of us always think when they do the math, they go, oh, well, the odds aren't in your favor. I'm like, that's life, dude. Well, what do you feel like? I'm like, what do you mean? I don't care. That's an emotional response. I just need to know the X's and O's so I can make a game plan here. People are like, oh, well, you're being negative. I'm like, no, I'm being realistic. The odds are not in my favor, man. Doesn't mean I'm quitting. People win all the time with very little percentage of, but doesn't mean you have to go out there and be dishonest. Oh no, you got it going for you. Some people need that pep talk of, it's all right, man. You're going to do well. Everything's great. Like, no, it's not. It's not great. Things suck. This guy one arm, dude. This is going to be hard.
Well, and it was really good for Bella. That was the whole purpose of us starting to put her in your corner, was to just, because once we knew that that's the avenue fighting that she was going to go into, we were like, she needs to be in your corner. She needs to see, from the locker room to walking down to the crowd, the arena, she needs to get used to that. So it's not her first time. For you, your very first fight in the UFC, that was your first time being with the lights and the crowd. And so we just it was like a desensitizing thing that was the start plan for her. But then that fight, there were just things for her to just learn. It's not going to always
adversity
end
in life.
good for you.
Yeah,
adversity in life. It's in everything. Yeah. It's in sports, what you do. It's in everything in life. Business, medicine, whatever it may be. Everything. And how do you handle adversity? Do you fail? Do you crumble? Do you rise? Do you fight? Do you? It's in everything.
Absolutely. Well, hey, it was awesome having you on here to be able to discuss that time in my life. That was definitely one of the more interesting aspects that, and to be honest, I kind of haven't really spoke about too much. I mean, people knew about the fact that, for the longest time, one arm on my body was completely atrophied down. Even after the surgery, I think it took about 2 years before it came back to where now I'll wear a T-shirt and it's like, oh, okay, I could tell your arm's smaller.
And it was so fast. Like after the fight till you had the surgery, which was a month later, I mean, in that month, his arm looked like it wasn't like
no, it was
it didn't even belong on his body. You kept saying that. Yeah, it just looked like it was someone else's arm attached. It was so crazy how fast that it's just from the pinching of the nerve, but it's that fast that it atrophies.
It did. In your case, it did. I mean,
is that normal?
It can happen for sure.
It's just, I didn't know, like I thought, okay, gradually, a year, 6 months time, but I mean, weeks. Like it just was instantly one arm, it was one size and then it wasn't.
How many of your patients do get back significant amount of muscle tone?
We tell our patients normally after a year or two is where you're going to be. So the bottom line is it sounds as though it took you time, which is not atypical. I mean, the first thing that tends to get better after these operations is pain.
Oh, pain was instantly gone.
You had pain. And then, but the most important thing obviously was weakness as well. So pain is the first thing that gets better. Numbness most times does not get better if you have it. And then weakness just takes time. And like in your case, like you said, a year or two, that's not atypical. In other words, you got to regrow essentially the nerves back to the muscle to allow the muscle then to have its normal firing.
Well, and it was so scary thinking he was both of us, I think, were like, what if it stays like this? I mean, it's like, yeah.
I mean, it was possible. I mean, the goal of the surgery we tell our patients, obviously, people want to be, out of pain. But in your case, you had neurologic deficit. The goal of surgery is to prevent you from getting worse. The hope is that we get stuff better. And luckily enough, in your case, we did.
That's one point of advice I give all my friends now, any of the guys we train with.
Oh, yeah.
The minute they start complaining about anything, numb fingers, if they say anything, it sounds like what I was speaking. I'm like, guys, go get it looked at. The sooner the better. Because the farther you go down that road, the farther you got to come back. You might not come back at all.
I got 3 or 4 more of your buddies.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, he tells everyone, he tells them not to wait.
3 or 4 more of your buddies.
Yeah, he tells them not to wait. He's like, don't wait. But, I think because what Dr. Kaplan said earlier, but that's so true. You're so used to, because of your sport, pushing through pain, pushing through it, through it. Even when we talked to your next doctor, it was the same thing. I was like, go to the doctor, but like, no, it's like, yeah, you're so used to pushing
pain and injury. I would live there,
it's true. You would be going every week for something, but I just feel like now after this and then this, it's a learning lesson. You just need to.
You're a world-class athlete, and the denial element, like you talked about earlier, is so massive. That the reality is, and in your mind, I've heard other people say, well, I just got to train harder, or I got to do something harder, or whatever it may be, push it through it. Why is the muscle weak? Because I'm not lifting enough.
Well,
in other words, you got to think about the nerve portion. If you have a dead nerve, the muscle dies. But, a lot of people think, I'll just push harder to grow the muscle back. You can't push your way through.
That's what he thought, yeah.
And I didn't learn my lesson either, so...
He thought that.
Round 2, I actually figured it out.
Better late than never.
Yes, but no, your advice, and it's funny with Bella and the kids, he teaches them like completely different, like get it fixed.
Do what I say, not as I do.
Yes.
We're all the same. We're all the same.
Mm-hmm,
All right, welcome back. Today's guest really has a pivotal perspective, really, in the story I have to tell today about what happened currently with my last go of trying to get onto a fight with my daughter. So that'll start off with today. I have Dr. Seward, or Chris Seward, who's a neurologist here in town.
Neurosurgeon.
Neurosurgeon
in town.
What's the difference when I say those words? Sorry.
Absolutely, it's really common confusion of anybody who's outside the medical field. Neurologist treats non-surgical neurological diseases, and then a neurosurgeon treats any disease with the nerves or brain that requires surgery.
Okay.
So there's just like a split. And then if something doesn't benefit from surgery, neurosurgeons don't see those patients. And so like MS is treated with medication, so it's neurologist.
So like an internalist type of is neurologist would do.
Yeah,
that, right?
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
MD.
Super common. I mean, my father-in-law calls me a neurologist every
Yeah,
week.
no, I've been making that
So
mistake this whole
it's-
time. Never
yeah.
knew. I'm glad you corrected me on that.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you so
hopefully he
much.
doesn't watch this, but yeah.
That is so funny.
Well, to explain why you became into my life, these last couple months, I was trying to prepare to do a fight with my daughter. I actually felt great, was getting in good shape. And then back in about November time, my knee really started bothering me. And I know that my knees are shot. So we went in and did the typical X-ray MRIs, and the doctor comes in and goes, hey, man, you got stage 4 AO in your knee. There's
He's
no
no
reason.
typical X-ray. That's not
So I'm
typical
like, no.
X-ray. You need knee replacement.
And my point was, my right knee was the same way. I'm like, look, man, my left knee just keeps buckling. What do we have to do? Can you inject me? So we did the injections. I did hyaluronic acid shots. And so then after we did that, it was probably about January. My wife's looking at me and she keeps asking me, like, why are you still limping around? I'm like, I don't know, babe. It's weird. It's almost like I'm dipped in an ice bath from like my rib cage down. My legs just feel weak and tingly. Or I even at that time, I think I was saying that I feel like I've been sitting on the toilet too long. The tingly, your legs are dead. You get up and I would walk and I feel like I had 500 pounds on my back. The strength was gone to the point to where, because now here's where it messed me up. People could go to me and go, but you already had a neck injury. You understood what it was like to lose feeling in an arm. Like, I know.
said that to you.
But it was only one side. The fact that it was both equally down, it made me feel like it was something that was systematic. That I thought, for lack of a better explanation, I thought I had some kind of neurological disease. I thought maybe I had MS or ALS. I'm like, should I even look these up to find out, to go to the doctor? And she's like, you need to go. I'm like, I'm almost scared to find out what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so we flew to Oklahoma. And at that time, I was on crutches at my house. Once I got through where no one could see me, I had to use crutches from about the middle of December all the way until we flew out February 22nd or 21st to go to Tulsa to commentate for some fights. And I was on a cane. By the time I left Tulsa, when we went to the airport, I had to have the airport give me the assistance with a wheelchair. And then even more graphic, TMI, I guess, at one point when I came back, my wife's looking at me, we're sitting at the airport, and it looked like I kind of started to urinate on myself. And she's like, well, Frank, what is going on here? And I'm like, I don't know. So that Monday, I actually had an appointment with my doctor and general practitioner. So I go in Monday. My friend here basically has to carry me there in a wheelchair. So I was like, you have to go. And I'm like, no problem. And in fact, actually, I didn't want to go so bad that I was supposed to go at 9 a.m. And then I skipped it. And she's like, what are you doing? So I had to call him back up and make another appointment to go at 3. And by the time I got there, he started poking and prodding around on my legs, and I explained what was going on. And he said, don't pass go. You need to go to the emergency room right now. So I drove down to Lone Mountain. I'm explaining to my wife what's going on, to meet me there, that he says, I need to go. And that's when they did the MRI. And then that's where I got to meet you. You came in the room and you gave me the basically the news of what was going on with my back.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't totally remember the details because, like Dr. Kaplan said, we see a lot of people. How long was this going on?
So December.
Not the knee pain, but then when you started feeling cold, let's say. How long was that? Is that a couple
about 2
weeks?
months.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
It was about 2 months. I kept telling her, right? Do you feel like it's about 2 months?
Well,
of me
December.
Going, my legs feel weird.
December,
babe.
you still were that's when it started. You got the cortisone shots in December.
Right.
January 16th, you got the gel.
Hyaluronic, yeah.
From that point, when he got the gel, till February 21st when we went to Tulsa, he was declining. It was happening so fast, and he's like, the gel. Yes, I need knee replacements, but the gel helps me. And then we got to Tulsa on a cane. Yeah, he was in pain, like on a cane.
Yeah.
In Tulsa, like within 48 hours, he had no use of his legs.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, you have to go. I mean, you have to go. I mean,
and I was trying to push through it. Leading up to that point, I would hold the edge of the bed. I was trying to show her. I'm like, I didn't even want to go to the gym anymore because I didn't want anybody to see how weak I was.
Yeah.
So I thought I just need to keep pushing through it. My knee is just, because of the damage to my knee, it's probably telling my brain to shut down.
Yeah.
So if I keep telling it, no, you're not going to shut down, I'm going to force you to go.
Yeah.
I'm on the edge of the bed. It was impressive for me to do 3 or 4 body weight squats.
Yeah.
I was struggling with it.
Yeah.
but again, you had the pushing through.
Pushing through.
He was in his mind.
it.
See, he was
I
like,
just gotta do it.
I just got to push through. I just got to do these exercises. If I just do my exercises every day, and I'm like, No, it's it's declining
She goes,
so
what's
fast.
wrong with you? I really don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I would say even in people who are not, world-class athletes like yourself, 90% of the time there's a sense of denial with everything, brain tumors, everything. People say, oh, I got in a car accident, my head hurts because of that, or and they associate it with the COVID vaccine or or tripping and falling or something, and then they get fixated on that. And then, like for you, it was the knee.
Yes.
Well, the knee was probably totally separate and going on. But then the second you said I felt cold down, Dr. Kaplan and I were right now. We're probably red flags were just going off in our head. That's just like whoa, something's seriously wrong. That's just like so something like that is a warning sign. But it's so common because if you don't have the knowledge, I mean, how do you know? But I mean, what's serious and what's not. But
So when we
it's
got
just denial,
so when we got to the emergency room, when you first saw him, you came in and then you said you wanted to get an MRI. When you saw the MRI, what did you think? I wanted to know that.
Oh yeah, I mean that he needs surgery pronto.
But he was trying to be so calm. I remember when he came into us, he's like, okay, so I have 4 surgeries scheduled for tomorrow, but I'm going to try to clear them all. I'm like, wait.
Well, yeah, I think it went from you were going to try to fit me in towards the end of the week.
Yes.
Then it came to like, well, we'll see if we can fit you in Tuesday.
After he looked at the MRI.
Then it was the first surgery tomorrow morning.
I know. I was like, wait, what did he see? I know. He's all, what do you think he saw? I'm like, I don't know. What did he see?
Well, I mean, you're just your spinal cord is being totally pancaked, and then when I went back and talked to you, it's just you were rapidly progressing worse and worse and worse, and then you're so strong. You can compensate so well. Like most people, when they're paralyzed, they can't sit up in bed. But I walk in a room and your core was so strong that you did a sit up and whipped your feet around. I'd never seen that before. In somebody who's paralyzed. So it's just like. And I think Doug Kaplan sort of talked about this too. Is you're so well. There's one thing about athletes that is good is they're really in tune with their body, so they know when something's not wrong. Right. Sometimes earlier than other people, but then there's the downside is they're so strong. Their mind is so strong. They white knuckle everything, which is a great attribute with everything except
when you say when you say pancake for like myself that don't know what that means. What does that mean? When you say his spine was pancaked? Your spinal canal, there's a hole in the bone where the spinal cord goes, and he had a disc that took up 90% of that canal where the spinal cord goes. So then it's
90% of the spinal cord was like this. It was like that thin. Where it's supposed to be like that.
And he started and the same thing happened. That's why I was like, you have to go, because then his right leg, the atrophy started.
Oh yeah,
and it was like it was starting fast.
Well,
I'm like,
he was
Frank,
incontinent. He's urinating on himself.
Yep.
And you talk about signs leading up to, and it's probably something people don't like to talk about, right? But I remember even telling my wife, I'm a very regular person. I go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times a day. For the last 2 months leading up to the surgery, I was struggling to go to the bathroom. I'd go sit in and she's like, what are you doing in the bathroom?
Why am I
constantly sit in the bathroom with her. I'm like, babe, I don't know. I'm trying to go and I'm sitting here. I'd probably sit on the toilet 2 to 3 times with only success possibly on the third one. That's not me.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say with myelopathy, which is what you had, spinal cord compression, most people go almost 6 months before we see them. I'd say on average. It's because it's so subtle. And then most people have gone to a doctor, and the doctor's like, "Well, your hand's a little numb. We'll get we'll get a nerve study, go home," and they just don't pick it up. It's so subtle, and I've thought a lot about this, how to bring awareness to it, but it's just the symptoms are vague, they're subtle, and they happen over 6 months. So how do you do that? I don't know, but basically, it's numbness, weakness, and then loss of.
Well, and you kept saying the heaviness. So, like you kept saying the heaviness.
Heaviness is a very common thing.
You kept saying my legs so heavy. When you came out after the surgery to talk to me, I just remember like you looked so exhausted, and you were all he looked so tired, and he's like, he had so much calcium, and his bones, the density is like I was just hammering like into his bone, and I go, is he gonna be more sore? Because the way he was like describing to me is like I just was like hammering, and I was like his bones were so dense.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to. Because it took a long time, I think longer than I told you it would.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to justify that for you so that you weren't worried that I wasn't telling you, what took so long? Like, is everything okay?
Well, no, I was okay with that because I had read too, and you had said it could take this amount of time. I mean, you don't know until you get in there.
His, bone and muscles and stuff is just like a whole nother level.
I'm actually impressed from what I read that I was going to lose a rib, but you were able to get through. I
remember I asked him that. I was like, "Did you have to break a rib?" And you said, "No, you didn't have to."
Yeah, but it in the long term, it doesn't really make a huge difference. But yeah. But it's just his your bone is just it's like cement, because the bone is right. Astronauts get osteoporosis because they have no stress on them because they're just floating, right? The UFC fighters. The 100% opposite spectrum because they just have constant pressure, and so your bone is just like
cement.
It's incredibly strong.
But it didn't save my cartilage.
The rock. So getting into it, which is great for me actually. It makes surgery.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Is it better for it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's better for you.
Yes. I mean,
okay,
yes. Because you don't want soft bone because you can't do anything with that. You want it's like building a building around a stick, a scaffolding, like a strong.
Yeah.
Framework. You want a strong framework. That gives me options.
Sense.
I was the most shocked at his back after the surgery looked like a turtle. Like
the swelling.
The swelling. It was I couldn't believe. I took a bunch of pictures, I took a bunch of pictures, but I was like tripping out. I mean, it was extended out like a lot.
It
was crazy.
I remember was my chest.
Hematoma. Yeah.
I remember my chest though. I woke up. I was like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know about my back, but God, my chest hurts. And we had you on your stomach or your chest for I think it was like 9 hours.
And then hammering.
Oh, that makes sense.
Hammering into his back.
I also had to cut 2 of your nerves that wrap around the chest.
That's why.
And then everybody always feels like they're getting squeezed because the nerves. Gone, so they're like, God, somebody's squeezing my chest.
No, you kept saying you kept feeling fire. You're like, I just feel like it's burning. I feel like it's burning.
Pain. Yeah, that's really common, and then it usually goes away. 6 weeks, people say, I still feel it. Yeah, and then after a few months, you forget about it. Almost always.
Yeah, I kind of figured there was just a reshape of my ribs. It was what I attested it to because I was like, when I went to take a deep breath, I was like, it almost kind of made me want to panic. I had to use part of my martial arts training of not panicking in a bad situation where I just kind of sat there going, breathe through it, relax, just chill out. Because like it feels stressful to not feel like you can breathe properly. Like someone's holding, it's like having someone on top of you in cross-side. They have a good cross-side, 100 kilos type scarful. If you panic, you're in trouble.
Yeah, like high elevation.
Almost. And it's so nice to like take care of somebody like you because you have so many mechanisms to deal with stressful situations, you're like, I have this breathing thing. I mean, most people don't have that. And so we have to it takes so much time and effort. So just having somebody like you, it's so easy to take care of.
And another thing I want to thank you for, both of us would have made a huge mistake on.
It's
going to rehab, staying there and doing the 2 weeks of having them look after me. Because
did you end up doing that?
I stayed,
He did. He stayed.
When you told me, I told my wife at the end of it, I'm like, I can't believe that was an option. Had we gone home and it was just her taking care of me,
there's no way.
I don't know how we would have done it. Like, just,
Well, I stayed with him the whole time in rehab because I just always feel like a patient should have somebody there advocating for them, also just so, but I mean, me and the nurses, I mean, there was no way. It was so much work. Yeah. I mean, there's no way. And he's so big. And it's like...
it takes time.
Yeah, going to the bathroom, showering.
For a few days there, when right after the post out, you are helpless.
Yeah, you have to be vulnerable for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was the hard... It was... I mean, you can say, but I think out of everything you've been through, this was the hardest thing that you've had to go through.
Yeah, mentally, definitely.
Yeah, even the motorcycle accident and getting stripped of your belt. And I mean, even like mentally, emotionally, this was by far the worst thing that I think you had to just to be Frank Mir and have this image and of his... he's so intertwined into being a fighter and an athlete and being the toughest man on the planet that to be vulnerable and so vulnerable, going to the bathroom on himself, not having an erection, not having the use of his legs. Is it ever going to come back? A moment that's when I didn't show you because I was trying to be so strong in the rehab because he was crying every day. Even like a couple of friends came to visit him because he was like, I think I want friends to come. And I thought it would help him. The first two that came, he's sobbing even in front of them. I was like, okay, so everyone else, I was like, maybe we'll just wait till he gets home. But I remember you told me, you're sitting in the wheelchair and you're sobbing and you go, I feel like I'm being punked. Like, I feel like there's like someone's punking me right now. Like, how humiliating can we make Frank Mir? Like, this is the most humiliating that I've ever been. And I was like, no, babe, it's okay. And when I left, I got in the car. I just was like sobbing. I was like so brokenhearted for you because I just have been with you through this whole journey. And just to watch you, be weak and knowing that you're going to get strong again is fine. But like having to be so vulnerable and humiliated on your way to get back up was really hard for me to watch. Like it makes me emotional even now, like thinking about it, because we're still 3.5 weeks post-op, but it's been, I'd say the last 5 days, he's been like this. But even up till that point, the whole time in rehab, sobbing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we're 3.5 weeks post-op and you're here like doing this.
No, it's
to be honest, for most patients.
Yeah, people saw him a week ago. This is not.
If you don't mind me asking a deeper question, but so do you think it was the recovery, or is it more like? And I don't know. You don't have to answer this. Is this like a sign? Is it more like a sign? Like, okay, I'm done. Like, I need to move on. Like, okay, fighting is not a good idea anymore. I need to move on with life, because I feel like that's a hard moment to
be honest.
deal with.
Well, being a martial artist,
be honest, because I'm going to tell the truth.
Fighting for money is only one aspect of it. It's like I tell people this: like people like to lift weights, even if you're a pro bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You still lift weights when you retire. You still love to lift weights. There's still aspects. So for me, I love martial arts. I love when I train people. I love sparring with them. I love wrestling. I love actually moving with my, whoever I'm training. Do I need to go out there and get paid money and win titles? No, that part of me is pretty satisfied. And I'm older now. And I got to tell you, I don't really have that itch.
Yeah.
But for me to think that, I'm not going to be able to hit the bag with my kids anymore. I'm not going to be able to wrestle with my grandchildren. Like, ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow. So that was what I was looking at. Because at first, the hip wasn't moving right and the foot. And they're like, well, yeah, we'll see what comes back. And I'm like, because again, being neurological, there's so many like, you don't know. It's like, well, it could be fine in 6 weeks, or it might not ever be fine. We're going to know more as time tells. And that clock's really slow. And when it's me sitting there by myself staring in my body, there was moments of just pure dread.
It's so intertwined. And I try to explain it to people because I get asked that question all the time. Like, how long is he going to keep fighting? Like, are you going to have him retire and have this? I'm like, you guys don't understand. First of all, I'm never going to make that decision for him. I told him that when we first got together. He has to make that decision on his own when he's going to be done fighting. I can give a suggestion if he asks me, but it's like a part of him. I don't even know. Like, it's like if you take the fighting out of him, not necessarily doing it to get paid, just not being able to roll around on a mat, not being able to train, crazy. Not being able, you might as well, he in his mind, he can't separate them. I wish that he could, because in my mind, I'm like, but you're so many other things. Yeah. Your mind, your brain is so smart. You're a dad. You have so much to teach just in what you could speak about. He cannot. He wouldn't live. He wouldn't. I don't even know how to explain it. He would put a bullet in his head. Probably. I don't know. He wouldn't. He'd go out peacefully. I don't know. Not fighting like professionally, but just to not be able. And that was like every day. And when we were in rehab, it's like the thought of him. He was like, life insurance is paid up, right? Like there's no guarantees. Like I can't.
The turnaround of those, I started feeling better, and then people thought we're crazy. It's probably you're going to probably think I was insane for this. So we're about 7 days into it, and I'm actually at that point starting to get more optimistic. So I have my son Cage. I'm like, hey, grab me. So we start figuring out. I'm figuring out how to frame on the wheelchair so I can frame myself thoracically and block. And like, okay, if anybody comes in and grabs me, I can grab them. I'm starting to do elbow pulls, to do Russian tie. I mean, if I Russian tie, I can pull you aside in an arm drag. I'm like, look, I still have this. Oh, look, I can pull you down. I'm working out techniques that actually I can employ if I can get a hold of your arm or wrist first.
And what changed in rehab, which it's like, I love that the fighting pulls you out. It's always been like your religion, right? It's what gets you going. It's what gets them out. But somebody, I don't know who had said to you, your spine is actually going to end up even being stronger. And you're like, he was all, so it's going to be stronger. Like, yeah, you'll have a full recovery. It'll be stronger than it was before. And what did you say? In 1 year from now, I'm gonna have another fight. I'm gonna do one more. And I was like, oh my God. But that wasn't the time, because I'm like, if it's what's gonna get you,
it's what keeps
you going. That's fine. When he gets better, we'll talk about it. But I'm like looking at him like, you literally are in a wheelchair. You cannot walk. You can't go to the bathroom by yourself. He had a catheter in him in rehab. You're like, can't even from the waist down, nothing's working. And you're like, because the doctor or somebody said, you're going to have, your spine is actually going to be stronger. He's like, wait a minute. If it's going to be stronger than it was before, then that means I can fight again. I just have to wait until I get cleared. So here, listen, Dr. Seward, when he comes in a year from now and he's all, can you clear me from my fight?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a long discussion, but I mean, it'll eventually fuse but then you're going to have 4 or 5 levels that are solid bone, so you won't be able to flex in your mid-thoracic spine. I mean, you'll probably be okay if you really wanted to do it.
I promise you his workouts for the next year are going to be working through not having that. He's going to be like, okay, so his mind's already going, so he's thinking of all the moves that he can do where he doesn't have to do that.
Yoga or something, a little Pilates or... Is there something in between there?
This guy?
I think when you realize that was a little off was one of the questions I actually did ask you. It was like, so the thoracic, how much rotation will I be able to have? You're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if I wanted to throw, I was trying to ask you in a way. I was like, I want to throw punches. If I were to throw a punch.
That's right. He asked you, can I throw a punch?
You're like, well, right now, no, not at all. Like, we don't want you to just shoulders and hips have to stay in the same point. I'm like, okay. But eventually when it's healed, you're like, well, yeah, you're going to rotate still here, but you're going to lose a little bit. But for what you're asking for, you'll be fine. I was like, that's good news.
See, and so then he's like, he said I can throw a punch, and then my spine's going to be stronger. So, I mean, that means I can fight, right? So, Bella, hold on, our daughter. Next year, we'll just be ready for a fight. It's like this guy. I don't even say anything anymore. It's just like, okay, Frank.
Do you remember on your part what you felt after when you sewed me up? It was done. The surgery you were completed. What did you think I was going to have as far as like, do you even have that kind of idea with your patients where you're done? You're like, this guy's going to have a good recovery. Or you're like, wow, we're going to really see how this turns out because that was bad.
Well, myelopathy, you can't predict. And Dr. Kaplan alluded or talked about this a little bit. Same thing in the spine. You can't, the goal of the surgery is stop the progression. So stop people from getting worse, keep them the same. I'd say 99% of people get 10% improvement.
Wait, what percentage?
99. So almost everybody actually does get 10% improvement, even though, we tell them like the goal is to stop the progression, so no improvement is no worsening and no improvement is a win, but almost everybody gets 10% better. And then it's a spectrum. You're either between 10 and 100%. So you could be 10, it could be 20%. Some people honestly get almost everything back. It might take 2 years, but they do. And you're like, wow, I can't believe they got everything back. That guy was in crawling, and it's just, it's impossible to know.
Right.
So
I think I asked you that and you told me that because I go, is he going to get, and you're all, we're not going to know till he knows.
I don't. And I could say, it's hard really for me to say because I'm more thinking about the technical things and how to get to do the safest operation. And then, I think about the things that I can control to give him the best opportunity. So I don't really think that much about, well, I guess I do a little bit, but it's, you just don't know.
I guess now this is kind of off topic, or not off topic, but more just in general. What's the longest you've ever done a surgery for? The longest you've been?
Some of them can be pretty long. I mean, I don't like going longer than 12 hours, sometimes 14 hours. I guess you'd say.
Do you like stop and like? I mean,
Sometimes I
give you
do.
Like
More
you
and
like 15
more.
minute break to eat. Or I mean, like,
More
that's
and more
incredible.
I do. The older I do, yeah. But it's honestly, it's like I really compare it to almost doing. Surgery's like doing drugs. Almost. It's like an adrenaline rush, like never. But I've never had before because it's like you have somebody's life, and it's they're open. You have nobody to call for help, and you have to get this fixed now. You don't. There's no fallback, and if you screw up,
there's no
somebody
second string guy
can
waiting to jump
die
in for you.
or be paralyzed. Yeah, so it really is quite a rush. Even like when I'm feeling under the weather, I'll start surgery, and it's like I'm not sick anymore. And then the second I'm done, and I go to write my note, I'm like, oh, and it's just like everything hits you because you're sort of you get in the zone,
Right.
and you just like nothing.
Well, because after the surgery, and
that's probably why when you see me, I'm like, it's
yeah,
kind of like
you
all
looked,
hitting me.
Yeah, you looked like you just looked.
Yeah.
I mean, you just you had you were in there for 9 hours.
Exhausted.
Then after you told me everything, you're like, okay, I'm sorry, I have to go to a different hospital. I have to do another emergency surgery. And I remember thinking
It was
like,
That was a crazy week. I forgot about that.
yeah.
Yeah. So they can be kind of crazy, but I really have learned that I like intensity. I guess I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie a little bit.
It's the same as you.
No,
It's the same as you as getting into a cage. You say that, and because people, they don't understand it, right? So they'll say, why is he, keep fighting? Why does he do it? And you've said it because you're like, oh, you could do a podcast, you've done acting, you commentating, and those things all bring you happiness. But you're like, there is no rush like there is when I'm walking to the cage. I'm going in there like you said, I guess you could turn around and run out and say, I don't want to fight anymore. But you're there. There's nothing. You have to walk to that cage and fight.
Right. But you also, it's a little dangerous with doctors is that, I don't want to get too off topic, is not letting the adrenaline get you to do something that you don't want to do. So meaning like you get so excited about a surgery and then something comes up and you're like, oh, we probably shouldn't be doing the surgery. You have to be logical. So you have to be like, nope,
pull yourself back
we're
a
not
little
doing
bit,
it.
reel it
Even though I really want to, I'm ready. I've been preparing for weeks. We're not doing it. You have to be very logical and stay not emotional.
Stay in your lane, basically.
Yeah. And that's really important. And I think some people are not great at it. But that's very, very important. Yeah, I've been lucky to have, I think, good mentors that taught me those skills early before I got into medicine. So,
and then is there anything though that you feel like now? Here's your opportunity here as we're wrapping up. Would you like, as far as like the common person to know at home, like now, for example, what I've learned from this, today, one of my buddies was, I got to get an MRI of my back now. They said my legs, I'm tingling. Like, dude, get it done now and find out. So is there any message you wish that, like, I wish the average person understood this more?
It's really difficult because if I say, if you're having trouble with balance and numbness in your hands, like go get an MRI because 95% of those people, it'll come back negative and it's neuropathy or it's just old age or you know what I mean? So it's really hard, but you just have to understand that, if you go and it's negative, that you still did the right thing and that's okay. You know what I mean? I think that's what turns people off. They're like, well, all my 3 friends had these symptoms and they all went in and it was negative. Well, it doesn't mean that yours is going to be negative. So basically, the warning signs are numbness, weakness. The biggest thing is loss of fine motor activity in your hands. So I can't write anymore. I can't text. I can't do little things, but you could still grab things. And then people are ataxic
it was your legs, though, right?
Yeah.
For you, it was your legs. Like, so it would be
disequilibrium. So they're kind of like, grabbing onto the wall.
And your legs kept buckling. Like he would walk,
legs are buckling,
and it would just
heavy.
buckle. Yeah.
You named them all. In fact, and then I had a rationale for almost every single one of the symptoms. I remember I even looked it up. I'm like, why do my fine motor skills seem like they're off? But my gross motor skills are fine. It was like, if you have a high testosterone and estrogen.
It's the first thing to go. So,
fine motor skills. Yep. And damn it. Always look for ways to try to
I know, and Frank too, he looks up everything and he's too smart sometimes. He's too smart. Because then he's diagnosing himself and he has it all figured out.
You're not going to be able to understand myelopathy by looking it up because the symptoms are too vague. So when you look it all up, it's difficult to understand the concept. You have to talk to an expert, either a neurologist or a neurosurgeon. Even ER docs and internal medicine docs, I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad. It's just they don't see myelopathy a lot, and they miss it a lot too, and that's very normal. So it's
Everything
tough.
was just so aligned that day.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that day was
One
aligned.
question,
Yeah.
because honestly, I don't really, I didn't even know who you were actually until I met you.
No, that's right. You didn't know.
Yeah. What's the thing with your daughter and your family? Because I'm just missing that part of it. Does she?
Yeah, my daughter right now.
wrestling
Actually,
stuff?
she's already had 3 MMA fights. She started at 17.
Very
So
cool. Man, I feel stupid now.
Well,
But okay.
No,
my
no,
whole family,
no.
like I told all of my children, like they have to be martial artists.
I see.
It's like, to me, it's like learning a musical instrument.
Yeah.
I think it's good for you. I think most people say that you want your child to learn how to play piano. It doesn't mean I want you to drop out of school and be a rock star. So I want all my kids to have a martial arts in their life because of what it does for the mind, body, and soul.
Sure.
Doesn't mean I wanted, and actually, I never wanted my daughter to be a professional fighter.
We wanted none
Yeah.
of the kids to be professional
But my
fighters.
daughter went down that road, and now she's wrestling. She's actually the national runner-up at nationals as a junior. She only lost to the current Olympic champion who won nationals. And so the talk is that I was going to do one final fight on a card with my daughter.
Retire.
Kind of a
I see. That's
Passing
Like
the torch.
passing of the
Okay,
torch.
I get it.
So they
Okay.
were going to fight on the
'Cause you
same
were
card
talking
together
about
because
that
that's never been
Yes.
done. A father-daughter on the same fight night. That's never been done before.
Yep. So I actually had a fight. Hopefully, it was going to happen maybe in April, the end of April. So that's what we were trying to get ready for. And then finally, it got to the point to where what was going on, where I'm like, it was just crazy time in my life that I was in denial because I wanted this to happen more than anything.
Yes.
And I was trying to push through it. And then
So
obviously,
so that's part
And then
of the
she's
reason
also-
that okay, this
Yeah.
is making
makes
sense.
more sense now, right?
Yeah.
The brutality.
And
of it.
she's-
I wouldn't accept no for an answer.
Because hold on, because Bella, she's very particular with all of her accolades. So she was a 4-time state champion wrestler.
She grew up here?
She's in Vegas. Born and
Okay.
raised. He's born
Cool.
and raised in Vegas. Yeah.
Cool.
10-time All-American. She made the world team as a freshman in college. She's the first UFC NIL deal. She turned pro at 17. She's 3-0. She was 2022 UFC Fight Pass Female Fighter of the Year.
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on, Bella. Am I
Is that hard
forgetting
to
anything
watch
else?
your daughter in the ring?
I don't know.
No.
I think it for different reasons, like because people ask me that too. You become desensitized. It's not because like you think they're going to get hurt because you're watching them train 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So you're desensitized to that. To me, with Frank, it was always like, God, this is either going to be a really, really great month or like a really, really shitty 3 months. You
Yeah.
know, like I've been, our life has been like, not. I haven't really had him. He's physically there, but he hasn't really been there for the last 12 weeks training for a fight. So you want the fight to do good. And then like I get my husband back. Well, if he loses, no, well, it's another 12 weeks. You know what I mean? And then I'll get him back and we can go back to normal. So
Yeah.
that was more always of my stress. It actually has been harder watching Frank fight than Bella so far. But I'm crazy anyways when I'm watching them. Even the kids, I'm that, they do the TikTok moms they're like watching their kids and they're like screaming. Like when Bella played softball, he would just pick up his chair and he couldn't even sit by me
Stress me
because
out.
I'm like screaming, like, getting threatened to get thrown out and like trying to protect my children because the umpire made a bad call. That was
Yeah.
me. Yeah. But yeah, she's all of our kids are amazing. But yeah, Bella, she's a badass.
That's
She
awesome.
can beat up
Well,
most men,
I hope
for
to have
sure.
kids soon, so maybe I'll
Oh yeah.
know how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today and talking.
Absolutely.
And again, I would love to have you back in the future if anything comes up again that you can explain to us. Teach us a little bit about any current events that are occurring that happened with that in any department like that with injuries and whatnot. So again,
Sure.
just thank you so much for coming.
Oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
thank you. It just
Pleasure.
the stars were aligned for us that day. You just being there, it just happened. It just everything was perfect. I know. I'm
glad you feel
so
that
grateful
way.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, before I introduce my next guest, I have to explain a little bit about the product, Blue Scorpion. It was a product that was actually given to me by a friend, Chemo. Said, hey, you walk around work, he saw that I was stiff, I was hurting, and he'd ask me a few questions. And there's other products I take to help me with pain, but inflammation was kind of an issue. I kept talking about how swollen my legs were, traveling, flying. So he said, you got to try this out. And the homeopathic supplement. And I'm looking at it, it's Blue Scorpion, Venom. It's kind of crazy first when I look at it. And I got to admit that that's why I'm glad I have today's guest on, because it's one of those products that honestly that I took saw the results from, even though that I didn't quite understand it, but the results spoke for themselves. Immediately, within 2 or 3 days, I could see veins in my feet again, all the swelling left my legs. I had a much better feel without having to go through ibuprofen. And I've always wanted to try to avoid as much as I can those type of drugs because they're part of my life as it is through all the injuries I've accrued. But if I can have anything that's healthy and work the way this has worked, I'm a big fan of. So that being said, Dr. Arthur, I can thank you for this. Please introduce yourself to our guests.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Frank. And I'm really happy to hear your results because we do hear this type of results around the world for many years. So my name is Arthur Mikhaelian. I started the investigation of this type of medicine as a scientist from year 2000. So before I started getting interested in scorpion venom as a drug, as a supplement, there was a discovery I have where I was using quantum physics-based technology to potentiate any given product. That could be synthetic, that could be natural. And so I wanted to actually create, I call that slogan of mine is create scientific bridge between conventional and alternative medicine. So by using this technology, because of like you hear probably many times when people use vitamin C, only maybe 8% stays in your body, right?
All the time. I take supplements and one thing that I've tried to actually do because of that is I prefer injectable, taking it through the IV because you're like, oh, if I take an injectable IV vitamin C, it's more it's very available. So when you say that you were trying to find ways to propitiate to make it just much better absorption. So any medicine, whether it was synthetic or natural, you were finding ways to make it to be utilized by the body at a higher degree.
Absolutely, that's correct. So I created my first prototype of that technology where I could potentiate different type of vitamins and products and see their efficacy. If their efficacy can increase by lowering presence of main compound. So just imagine if we use that technology for conventional science in chemotherapy, for example, or ibuprofen. You probably take a lot in your life, right? And you know
more than my share.
How much damage that does to your liver and other organs.
My kidneys. Yeah.
Just imagine if you can lower 3-4 times the intake of the product, but it can have same efficacy.
So I get all the positive results still, but because I'm taking 3 times, 4 times less, I can avoid the negative.
Yeah. So in 1996, I started investigation with that quantum technology, where base of the technology is one of my findings was related with calculation of resonance frequency in molecular level. Okay. And that involves Planck's theory, where it says, like, for example, in when we hear a radio wave, right? What happens? There is a radio station emits the wave frequency, which is energy, right?
Right.
It's energy. And you have your radio tuned into the right frequency to capture the information or energy, what you need to hear. And of course, there's amplification and so on. But just imagine in molecular level, if you find that molecular frequency of substance, compound, and you can emit electromagnetic frequency, that substance will start absorb the energy. And when it's absorbed the energy, what happens? It's called quantum leap. People use that a lot. So what does that mean? The electrons, when they accumulate sufficient energy, they jump to new orbit. They go much farther from nucleus.
Right. Gaining energy, they always jump up in orbit.
Energy. Yeah. So this type of studies has been done before me, but the only problem was keeping the stability. So anytime scientists, they stop emitting the energy, electrons go back to
so electron always wants to go to its less energy form, right?
Yeah. So in my research, I just came to the concept. I said, okay, what if we'll just imagine the planet Earth. We have a sun, and we have Earth orbiting around the sun. So if you charge the Earth with tremendous amount of energy, yes, it can go shift his orbit. But again, if you stop emitting that energy, it will go back to his original orbit. So I said, what if we'll charge the sun, which is mean nucleus in this case, for any given compound, separately with different type of frequency because of their structure and mass is different, and then electrons charged differently. Then that's where magic happens. So we've been able to stabilize electrons in a new orbit for a long time. So
you have to constantly be giving them energy. Now you
don't have
you're to put it on the
give
shelf,
energy.
it'll stay.
Exactly. They stay for a long time. Of course, there is a level of degradation of energy. But for example, we absorb like maybe 18-20% of degradation of energy. But when we are increasing from 300 to 600%, of course, 20% is not a big deal.
Right.
So, and we have all the studies, the stability, and when we tested the product many years to see if that process exactly proves what we are declaring. So, as I said, in 1996, I started this investigation. I did many research with different type of product, including even water. But my main attention in that time was related with the cancer treatment. So I wanted to see if I can create a product that could be not invasive, wouldn't cause any side effects, but could be effective enough. So interestingly enough, in 2023-24, came information about Cuban scientists. They started investigating scorpion venom. It's called, popular name is blue scorpion venom.
But it's actually in Cuba, from what I understand, it's been around for a few decades. Them understanding that there was some kind of efficacy, there was a cure, there was, that the blue scorpion venom wasn't harmful, but it actually was healing people.
Well, actually, that is interesting fact what you're saying. In the world, there is approximately 1,024 different type of scorpions, and only 20 of them, they are deadly.
Okay.
So there is a type of scorpion, what is blue scorpion, it's called from butthite family scorpions. They, scientists around the world, they find out that this type of butthite family scorpions, they have curative effect, actually. They have therapeutic potential. And there is lots of investigation right now is going on. So in 2023, in end of it, I fly to Cuba. I just saw you guys want to start investigation of this compound. I would like to participate, and I'm offering my technology to potentiate because of there's not enough venom. So that was, we got reached very good agreement with each other. That company was Labiopharm from Cuba, one of the largest pharmaceutical company in Cuba.
Well, because there's only so many of these blue scorpions venom, so it's such a small. That's why, from what I understand, people pay a lot of money when they go down to Cuba to get the cancer treatment of the venom, but there's only so much venom to go around.
Absolutely.
So then you see with your situation, with your process, you can now make it more available to everybody else.
Yeah, and even today, scorpion venom price in 1 gallon in the market is also almost $40,000.
That's one of the most expensive
$40 million, very expensive
liquids in the world, from what I understand.
So we started the investigation with different type of cancers. On my study, preclinical study, we saw beautiful results, and including results with when we use the polarized version that potentiated with our quantum technology. So in 2006, after 3 years intensive work, I tried to see if I can actually create collaboration between United States and Cuba. And I communicated with the Congress, and I've been told that you can do as much as you want to do investigation, but because of embargo, you can start as a business, production, or whatsoever. So unfortunately, I decided to then start independent research of that product. We already spent so much energy and time in research, and I saw great results. And also, most importantly, I saw that polarization technology, it does truly increases potency of this product. So in 2007, I fly to Dominican Republic because of from the literature and some research, I find out similar species, they exist in Dominican Republic also. I fly there. I went to Ministry of Environment, introduced my project. It took me 1 year to sign a final agreement for research to get even one drop of the venom to start investigation because of they were very protective of their genetic materials. They don't want to do any agreement that could be negative for the country.
Lose control of it also too.
It's a normal. I understand that. So after a year of intense work legally, and we handled all the necessary documentation, we got the agreement done. We started the investigation. And in 2010, because the results were phenomenal, we've been able to register it in Dominican Republic, this product, as an anti-cancer alternative medicine. So, of course, we didn't have enough study in that time to claim its curative effect. We tried to be more in an area of a complementary medicine, where we can combine the product with the chemotherapy and other conventional methods to increase the efficacy and quality life of the patients. When we do have successful process from 2010 until now.
May I ask again, though, before we go any further, just because of the blue scorpion aspect, just to educate people at home too, what are some of the effects that the blue scorpion venom itself, what are some of the greatest benefits you've seen that it does to a human?
Well, as you know, scientific investigation is a very expensive process and very time-consuming. But during the years, we find out, actually, inside of the scorpion venom, there is 4 peptides we identified. And every peptide has its own function for health. For example, there is a chlorotoxin. There is a sodium, potassium, and calcium ionic channel inhibitors. So usually all these type of ionic channel inhibitors, they have therapeutic effect on the human body. Like chlorotoxin. It's been widely studied in the United States, and it's been used not only just as its curative effect, but also his ability to bind specifically with the cancer cells. Now there's several companies that are trying to use as a delivery mechanism for radioactive iodine or any other type of chemotherapy-based medication. And
so it's like using a sniper rifle instead of using a machine gun. You can zone in exactly the cell that you want to go ahead and target.
And some of the studies actually, they trying to use to identify invisible cancer cells during the surgery, before surgery. So this investigation are going on with the FDA, and very soon I think we're going to have like a tumor paint that going to help to do a better surgery and so on.
Is this something similar to, I think people in America probably more used to the idea, accustomed to, we've heard now that like a bee sting, getting the bee stings have a health benefit. You're hearing that. Is this something similar where their venom has peptides? Is it along the same road?
It is. These type of venoms, they have similar type of concentration of, but their concentration, like for example, they all have chlorotoxin or neurotoxin. But the level of their toxin in different venoms are different.
Okay.
So that's why one type of venom could be good for one thing, another one for another one. So in our case, when we identified all these 4 peptides, so each peptide, one could have anti-tumoral effect, another one analgesic effect, another one anti-inflammatory effect. Calcium of ionic channel inhibitors have 2 type of effect. One is as an immune system modulator, and also we did a study in Dominican Republic related with COVID-19. And we saw actually it is have profound effect on the virus.
Well, and calcium blockers, that's similar to like blood pressure medication too, right? You can actually lower your...
It's can work in certain type of
Okay.
heart problem also. So that was the scope of our investigation, and then we came to the concept of what if we'll try, because so we have this potentiation mechanism, right? And what if we'll make homeopathic version, and what I did and licensed that technology to a Blue Scorpion Venom company. And this concept is, so there is a misunderstanding of among population that homeopathic medicine doesn't have any molecule of compound.
Right. I remember this is from the feedback from what I'm getting to people when I first started talking to my friends and family about it. They're like, Frank, look at the thing on there. It's a diluted. This first molecule was diluted 30 times, and then they get that and they dilute it 30 times. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing in there. I'm like, well, I don't know, guys. I'm telling you, I feel something. If you want to try it out, it's up to you. Yeah. So,
well, I mean, there's a scientific data. You can't go against data, right? So what is first of all, let's explain what is mean delusion process.
Right.
Delusion process, right? There's a two type of homeopathic delusion. One is called, let's say 30X or 30C.
Okay.
So 30C is a what higher dilution. So the homeopathic product has two procedure. One you dilute, then also...
take a break.
Also, you do potentiation by shaking. Their concept is like when the molecules, they bond to each other, they open up the energy whatsoever, and that helps to potentiate the product. So they believe, and this homeopathic product exists 200 years already. So there's something got to be true about that.
But that's the one that most people are aware of, and they sit there and go,
most people are aware of it.
There's nothing of that medicine actually in that bottle. It's just water with, basically, for lack of a better explanation, the memory of the molecule that was in there.
Yes, we're going to talk about that because there is scientific research also related to that fact. So, C version of dilution, it's when you begin to dilute your original substance, it's like 100-time dilution and 30 times. So it's like almost there is no molecule there.
Right.
But when you do X version, it's 10 times less. So there is existence.
Okay. So there's...
And also, you don't have to dilute 30 times. You can, like in our case, it's only 3-time dilution. So there is enough substance there.
So there is actually the scorpion venom in the product itself.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also combine it with polarization, potentiation, that works beautifully. So how we know that there is a molecule there? We did specific research where it was very difficult to find the methodology, but we did. When you freeze dry the product, separate from recipient, then keep only the venom. Then you can weight like what kind of amino acids is there, what is their weight, and that gives you insight how much venom is there. So that is actually procedure, quality control procedure we're using to be sure there is enough substance there. So homeopathic medicine doesn't mean that, doesn't have any molecule at all. It is very small amount, almost like, let's say, if you take the final product and try it, by regular methodologies, you will not find out. But if you can use it, our method that we use it is possible to identify exact quantity of the venom inside, which is very, very low.
Right.
So that is the relationship with homeopathic product. Of course, we have our other direction where we are just using the product as a medicinal substance. We are still in the process of investigation, and also we started with the FDA process and to approve this product as a quality enhancement product for cancer patients. But a homeopathic version exists, and we license it, and the company does great job to popularize this product. Like yourself, you tried and saw its efficacy.
Well, and then I had the same issue that like you probably saw recently on Brendan Schaub's podcast. You know, his podcast partner Brian, you know, the fighter and the kid, was actually teasing him a little bit. And some of the statements, did you hear some of the statements he was making that were contrary to and very much common statements made about the homeopathic industry?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's homeopathy is not that as a science popularized, so people have just general understanding. So he can feel like.
I didn't know about the two different forms of the difference between the 30X and the 10C. I was just educated on it myself.
Yeah. So that is the little history that how we started this homeopathic direction of this medicine, and it works very well and have near to zero side effects. And one time, one of our participants been asked by a journalist, is there any side effects when you're taking this product? And she goes, yes, there is some big side effects. So media or presenter got very interested. Oh, this is this is great. Now we're going to get something negative about it. So what is the side effect? She goes, yeah, one of the biggest side effects is wherever I go, I want to talk about this product, actually.
Become one of those annoying people.
So that was the, but I mean, we have so many studies on my study. We have human studies. We have different type of evaluation. We didn't saw any side effect, even we increased the dose 100 times. Of course, we always been careful. We trying to, in United States, keep the product in the realm of homeopathic version. So it's not going to go too big. Amount, but efficacy is obvious.
So then at this point now, what's next for you for the Blue Scorpion product? Like, what's the next step?
Well, after collaborating and licensing to Blue Scorpion Company this product, we decided to investigate further and have more scientific backup how it works and why it works. So that is the idea.
So what are my chances of getting a couple of these Blue Scorpions? I can get them in a tank, just put my hand in there a couple times.
Interestingly enough, when we find the location where there's a huge amount of these specific scorpions in Dominican Republic, I was surprised that the people, the locals, they already knew about it. And some of they saying like, well, I got bitten by these scorpions and my arthritis is gone or something else. And so one day I was just doing investigation with the Ministry of Environment, with their scientists, and we needed more plastic containers to put the scorpion samples there. So I went to one of the provinces in Dominican Republic. I went to some store. I asked I needed 20 plastic containers. So a lady who was the owner of it, and she asked why do you need this many containers? I said, well, just we're investigating scorpion venom. I want to see if it works or not. She says, it's a very smart idea. I said, why? She said, let me show you why. She grabs from her purse the bottle with trementin, and inside I saw that scorpion that we're searching and not having a good luck to find it for 8 months already. I got where do you find these scorpions? Just, I have a bunch of it in my backyard.
No kidding.
No kidding. So she has the scorpion venom inside of trementin, and she uses for her arthritis. She says, if I didn't use every day, I can't even walk.
It's amazing.
It is.
Because, again, that's by accident. It was discovered, from what I understand, it was a scorpion wrangler in Cuba, and his daughter was stung, or he figured out some kind of effects, and someone came up with the daughter that ended up having her tumors were cured from being stung by these scorpions, correct? And this was
Well, there's just lots of that type of stories going on. I mean, of course, we heard that, we value that, but most importantly,
but you got to have scientific
verification. Yeah.
personal anecdotal, evidence.
Yeah. So that was actually the beginning of this journey when we find the location of that scorpions. Because so that lady where she was living, it was like full of that specific species. So today we have one of the largest scorpion reservation in the world that in collaboration with the Dominican government, where we have hundreds of thousands of these species that we can produce enough venom to create different type of medication. So that's what we are in the process.
Is there ever a moment in the future that would make sense for you guys to make the actual venom itself available to where it's just a higher dose? Or do you think just that the quantum potentiation that you use always is going to have a higher efficacy because of the potentiation?
Well, we believe it's, first of all, you use less venom. Second of all, it increases the absorption process, that potentiation. So it's always better to use with combination with science and scientific technology.
That's awesome. Incredible. Yeah, educated. Is there anything else you want to add to it as far as let people at home know about the product? Again, my personal experience, it's been working great for the anti-inflammation aspect of it. I don't know if I have any tumors it's gotten rid of. I hope that if I do, it did.
No, I mean, this one is not designed for tumor. It's just only for inflammation. And why is that? Because of technology, what we have allows us to target specific peptide and increase its efficacy.
Oh.
So the peptide what we targeted is sodium potassium ionic channel inhibitor peptides.
Okay.
They are what causing anti-inflammatory effect. Now, how we know that? We have preclinical studies done that shows COX-2 enzyme inhibition when you use scorpion venom. So that enzyme, usually when you have any type of inflammation, that your body builds that COX-2 enzyme in your body. That's where inflammation is. So when you potentiate and using the product and compared to non-potentiated and potentiated version, we're seeing 300% increase in efficacy. Like that means COX-2 inhibition 300% stronger compared to non-polarized version.
Personal anecdotal evidence, I found out one of the times before I started taking the product, my internal inflammation, it's the protein C receptor, I believe they call it during your blood work. Mine was through the roof. I was like a 10. My physician was very alarmed by it, but I'm like, do you know what I do for a living? I mean, I'm always inflamed. I'm always injured. But he was like, but this is your internal inflammation. My last blood work back in October, after I've been on the product for about 7 months, I'm back within normal range. He's like, hey, whatever you're doing, keep it up. I'm like, works for me,
Well, actually, interestingly enough, lately we did so many other researches. And when we have a research done with Johns Hopkins University, Cleveland University, UCSD, Moore Cancer Center, Research Center. And our latest research has been done in UCLA. But unfortunately, it's a fresh results. I'm going to be able to share this information maybe a month from now, because we have to include that in a patent and also with FDA application. Then after that, I can kind of open the. But these results are just phenomenal, and they are confirm everything what we knew about the product. It just verifies it.
What do you feel like right now is your biggest obstacle? I feel like because obviously when we're talking to Haru, it seems like there's a ton of red tape with the government what you guys have to deal with right now with the product. But then at the same time, even as a personal user of the product, the common misconception about homeopathic medicine and amongst the general population. Do you feel one's more of a problem than the other, or are they just both two areas that you guys have to constantly face?
Probably all of together, and misconception, and there was not, actually I'm surprised until today that in United States, homeopathy is accepted as a medicine. Homeopathic medicine, of course, and you get NDA code. So it's
it's a $17 billion business. I think the last time I looked it up.
Yeah.
So there's people that believe in it.
There's people who believe in it,
and they're obviously getting results, or they wouldn't keep coming back.
And I want to help Blue Squirrel Venom Company actually do some more scientific research, confirm that efficacy where it's come from. So it's not a placebo effect. There's something more than what people think. So that is in our pipeline, and we're going to do intensive study to prove that. But in this case, of course, we have a beautiful combination of the quantum physics, quantum biology, science, with the efficacy of nature. And that's what excites me and gives me lots of enthusiasm to continue this research.
Well, the potential is amazing. It's above and beyond even just what you're doing with the blue scorpion venom. I see it.
Yeah.
Well, as you come along with more of the product and more information, I'd love to have you on again to educate us more, because some of the topics you're bringing up are just, they're deep. And I think that I don't know if just one segment will ever do it justice, having you on a few more times to keep breaking down and explaining to us at home and educating the average person.
Yes, I would love to. I mean, we have lots of interesting information that even, in regular, like people, they think like when you talk about energy and medicine, it's more like a hocus pocus stuff, right? It's honestly, that's what, there's the people they believe in. There's a small amount of people, they know, they feel it intuitively. There's something there. And, but most of the population, they think it's just nothing there. But when we entering in the age of quantum physics, when more discoveries, how energy, how particles are working, there is a huge potential to explain these type of researches. Like some of the research are like water memory, or another research is when, very interestingly enough, with the scientist who discovered HIV virus. His discovery actually related with a DNA, phantom DNA effect. Next time when we're going to be meeting each other, I can explain it, and I can explain how that can relate to explaining efficacy of.
Well, the whole field of quantum mechanics is mind-boggling. I mean, when you talk about different aspects of it that blows people's mind, I mean, you talk about quantum entanglement. You sit there, a molecule can be on the other side of the universe, and you move it, and they're constantly moving within the same amount of time because of the entanglement. Which I think it's now nicknamed spooky.
No, spooky name this come from Einstein.
Yeah.
Now it's not spooky, but another way, because it's fact now. So it's phenomenal aspect, and it's just exciting to be alive in that time when we, as a scientist, can discover and implement that for needs of human.
Well, thank you so much. You got my brain spinning. That was some amazing information you gave us. I can't wait to have you back on and break it down in a little bit more detail and to fully understand what you were saying. But I have a better understanding now of the product. Like I said, I had a firsthand use of knowing that it was working well, and I look to continue using it in the future. And I look forward to hearing more from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will try to next time come more prepared with charts and scientific data, so your audience can see the efficacy and essence of this research.
Phenomenal. That was awesome. I'm so glad that we had them, the doctors, our neurosurgeons. I learned that I was making that mistake, interchanging neurologist with neurosurgeon. And now I realize that both of them are neurosurgeons. Mm-hmm. And that actually, Dr. Seward is actually more of a brain guy. I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. And so that was great to have them on. And then, but Dr. Arthur, like how I was holding on by a thread trying to figure out, like, he's super in depth on what he was talking about, some of the concepts, right?
Yeah, he was amazing. And then afterwards, when we went to grab something to eat,
that's the part.
Just so many things about.
That's why we got to have him back on.
Yes.
For those at home, after we were done, chemo and all of us went and ate at the shawarma. We sat there, and Dr. Arthur, my wife, and I, and Haru, the discussion then he started bringing up about personalities, relationships. There was so much information. I'm like, I almost rather have taped that. Like, hold on, Dr. Arthur. I know that we're going to get your stuff through that we got to talk about with how they're administering the blue scorpion venom. But this stuff here was so interesting that he was talking about.
He was brilliant.
Right?
I could have kept talking to him for hours. He was so brilliant. And I asked him, remember I said, please, you have to come back on the show, because you and I have talked about bringing our therapists on the show and just doing a whole marriage,
Well, this is basically the dinner table for us. I think that when we talked about doing a podcast, and again, it alludes to why I have you here, is this was our way of sharing our life. Because so much misinformation in the world, people put together on purpose facade of what they are on Instagram or social media, that it's like, yeah, that's not real. Some people, because I think this is what we fall more into that category, because we're naturally on the more private side. I've heard some of the craziest shit people think about us, as far as like, or what's that, we were swingers, or, I'm like, what? Because we're not at the parties. We're not there where we kind of stay a little off the beaten path. Mm-hmm. So then when there is no information, people come up with information about you, storylines. So I'm like, this was my way of getting control of the narrative. It's like, hey, I don't care whether you like me or not. Like, obviously, I prefer if you do. But it kills me for me to find out you don't like me for something that I'm not really like. I'm like, well, no, that's not how I think. Actually, this. And so, but if you don't say, hey, I don't agree with how you came to that conclusion, I don't like you, and it's a true statement, they understand, like, well, and I go, yeah, well, that's me. Cool. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. So that's one thing I'm very happy about sharing and going back with this as far as the podcast. Like, hey, I want to control the narrative of what people think of you and I. You know what I mean? Like what people think of me, my family, my children, my wife. It's like, and then by sharing our story with the world, our struggles, our successes, allowing other people to share them with us. I mean, we saw that just even recently with my back injury. Other people coming forward go, hey, I had the same surgery. It took me this amount of time to come back. It was very inspiring for me to look at social media. Like, because people, I think, are always down on social media. It does rot your brain. It causes false illusions. All the negative. But there is a positive. A positive that you, as a unity, you get to talk with other people and share. And I think when it's done in that aspect, I think it could be a very powerful and very inspiring aspect of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you and I have really kept, like you said, I mean, your whole career and just the kids growing up, we've stayed super private and we've wanted to be that way. But now, we're getting older and we're getting into that next stage of our life where we can be teachers or help to somebody. That was really my thing, why I wanted to do this the most with you, was because anytime you and I are anywhere, somebody always says,
you always turn into a therapist.
You guys should be therapists. I swear, right? Everyone's like, you guys should be therapists. And you and I even talked about that. We're like, I mean, how long would it take us to go to school? Maybe you and I could do a husband-wife therapy thing. But then you kept going back to, we just need to do a podcast. Let's just share everything, our marriage, raising children, you being famous in the spotlight, trying to navigate that during that time. At a young age. I mean, I'm 5 years older than you, or 22. Motorcycle accidents, championships, loss of championships, suspensions. I mean, it's just, if you and I can share our story, not everybody is going to like us, and that's fine. But the people that do, like the ones that were reaching out after your surgery, if we can help a marriage stay together, if we can help, a parent that's going through similar things navigate through their children, and I think too, just people knowing that we have the same problems that everybody else does. People have always, I think they think that we have like some kind of perfect life, and I just want to show people that it's not, and it's okay.
Yeah. We're all human. We all have our, we all put them on at one time, one leg at a time, right? So, hey, so this was the first one. We're wrapping up. Is this checking the box? Do you feel comfortable how we're doing this? Are you happy? Like, I mean, is this it? Like we've talked about it enough times. Now we're wrapping up the very first episode we put together. Yeah. Boom, Mind of Mir's out there. What do you think?
I'm so excited. I'm excited. I'm still like really nervous. I mean, you're way light years ahead of all of this than I am. I've always been in the background, making sure you looked good and fixing your hair. So, but we have these conversations all the time. Every day at home.
Yeah, last night, way too late in the night.
We're both Gemini, so we don't stop talking.
Well, with that being said, wrap up. Well, coming guys, again, if you want to follow us, I'm at the Frank Mir on Instagram, on social media. Then my wife is at Mrs. _ Mir. I got corrected on that last night. Please follow us. Any questions? And, send them towards us. Hopefully next time we have the component of the fans asking questions that we can go and ask each other and go ahead and get out there. So if there's anything you find interesting, go and throw it our way. Yep. And, first one's done. Yes. On to the next.
Thank you. It was awesome.